let's talk about the eclipse season for 2025. So before I get into it, feel free to like and subscribe if you feel so inclined. I have my email in the description if you have any questions. I have my website in the description if you would like to book a reading. And I finally opened up video call readings. So I still have all my written reports for those of you who prefer a written report, and then I now have live video calls. So if you would like to book a reading with me, you can go to my website, which will be in the description. I also have an email list going, so feel free to sign up for that and you will receive exclusive little astrological insights and perhaps even a discount every now and then. Okay, let's get into the video. So 2025 is a really big year for a lot of different reasons. We are going to have Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus all moving into new signs, and we have a pretty intense eclipse trajectory this year. So we're going to start with March, which is when we see our first two eclipses. So on March 14th, which, by the way, that is the same day that Mercury is going to begin its retrograde period. On March 14th, we are going to have a Virgo lunar eclipse at 23 degrees, okay? So for those of you watching or listening, make sure you have your birth chart and you know your housing system. I personally use Placidus. I like that each house is assigned to a set degree. I just think it's a little more nuanced than the whole sign housing system, but whichever you prefer, just make sure you know what your Virgo ruled house is. And also for Placidus users, look at the degree, of course, and then you can kind of determine from there where this lunar eclipse in Virgo is going to reside in your housing system, okay? So that's the first eclipse, is March 14th. Then we're gonna have a solar eclipse on March 29th, and that's gonna be in Aries at 9 degrees. So make sure you know where your Aries ruled house is. And again, for the Placidus users, make sure you check the degree. That way you know exactly which house that solar eclipse is going to occur in. And depending on the house that this eclipse is occurring for you, that'll say a lot about what you can expect from this eclipse season. But there are some general energetic influences that we can all kind of expect to experience. So I'm going to go over that for March. Then we'll get to September. So for the Virgo lunar eclipse, we're going to start there, which is coming up March 14th. This is all about the body, okay? Virgo rules over health. So I don't want to say it's all about the body. Body's very important though, okay? Especially since that solar eclipse is going to be in Aries, which is also a very, very physical sign. So whereas Virgo more so rules over health, and some of those more boring, annoying things we have to tend to, like doctor appointments, Aries is much more primitive. It's like the basic function of our body for survival's sake, but both Virgo and Aries have a lot to do with health and just our physical prowess as a whole. So for the month of March, your health is going to be really important, okay? So starting with that Virgo lunar eclipse, the lunar eclipse, it's a little shadowy. So what you can kind of expect around this time period, March 14th, you really want to tend to your physical body. And that means you want to take care of any appointments, any kind of routine maintenance that you might have been putting off when it comes to your body. Like if you know you need to go for labs, go for your labs. If you haven't been to the doctor in many, many years, and if it is affordable to you and accessible to you, this is a good month to go ahead and do that. I know that we are also going to be in a Venus retrograde and a Mercury retrograde, and a lot of people are kind of scared about what they can and can't do. I'm a firm believer that medical appointments are completely necessary. Those are things that you don't really want to wait. You know what I mean? Like medical stuff is kind of urgent. It's stuff you want to just get done. So if you have been putting that stuff off, but it's accessible and affordable to you, go ahead and, make the appointment if you know you need to make the appointment. If you know you need to go to the dentist and you have the means to do so, just make the call. I know it's annoying, but it's really important that you take preventative care this month especially, okay? Now, the other thing with that Virgo lunar eclipse, there's probably, some clutter looming in your life, especially including material clutter. So this can tie back to what I was saying, like the need to make appointments. You might have some clutter in your actual schedule and routine that you've been avoiding dealing with. So that can be like certain chores you've been putting off. Maybe you've been putting off like getting an oil change, things like that. And that's really important because we will also be in that Mercury retrograde day 1. So Virgo is Mercury ruled at the end of the day. And Mercury has a lot to do with automobiles, travel, and some of those more tiny, it's like the smaller details that make up the bigger picture. So you kind of want to go make sure that your car, make sure the tires are good. Just those preventative like steps can be really important and can even be kind of like make or break for a Mercury retrograde. Okay, so you want to get that stuff done. You want to check that stuff out. Now, clutter can also just literally include clutter in your home. You might have stuff lying around that you really need to donate or that you've just been holding on to for no real reason. And this can even include clothes that you haven't worn in like 10 years. Some of the stuff, some stuff has a lot of sentimental value, and I get that. And I'm not telling you need to like throw everything away. But if you have things lingering in your home and in your personal space that just serve no real purpose to you, it might be time to kind of clear away, okay? Now, I know this might seem kind of random, but I would be kind of mindful about what you eat on March 14th or around March 14th. That's just because Virgo rules over the digestive system, okay? So if you are a foodie or you're an adventurous eater, which I totally am, maybe you don't need to have a bunch of oysters that day. You get what I'm saying? Like, just be mindful of what you're consuming. If you're going out to eat, make sure you're going somewhere reputable, of course. It's just probably not really the time to play games with your stomach, essentially. Like, if you know cheese is really bad for you, maybe you don't eat a bunch of cheese. You know what I'm saying? So just be mindful of what you're eating. You want to be mindful regardless. But Virgo lunar eclipse is kind of weird, and your immune system can kind of take a hit. So especially if this lunar eclipse is happening in your 6th house or your 1st house. So if you are listening out there and you have Virgo rising or Virgo 6th house, be mindful of your health around this time, okay? I'm being very serious. And as always, astrology is not a substitute for real medical advice, okay? So you got to go see a doctor for real medical advice. I'm just telling you about what Virgo rules thematically in the study of astrology, all right? So from there, we can kind of make certain assessments and judgments. So for people who have Virgo 1st, Virgo 6th, be mindful of your health. And for those people especially too, this is a good time to like declutter, get things sorted, including if you just have prominent Virgo energy in general, you're really gonna feel this lunar eclipse. And that stems from Virgo sun, Virgo moon, of course, Virgo rising, Virgo Venus, Virgo Mars, Virgo Mercury. Like for all the heavy Virgo people, plus that Virgo 6th house, you really want to be mindful of your health, and you want to use this time to just get rid of clutter. Whether it's old bills, whether it's, actual material clutter in your home, whether it's appointments you've been putting off, phone calls you've been needing to make. Like this is the time to just do it. Get it done. You'll feel so much better. It won't be looming on you psychologically, okay? Now, if you have a Virgo 10th house, this can actually be interesting for your career, okay? So this could know you might be feeling kind of like bleh about your career. This can note a need to kind of maybe scope out other options. It could also note a need in some cases to just, maybe you're feeling kind of bored with your career, maybe you're given an out. Okay, maybe you're given an opportunity to do something new. And that can apply to my Virgo 2nd house people as well, because 2nd house is money and 10th house is heavily associated with career. So if you have Virgo 2nd or Virgo 10th, this can kind of give you an opportunity to make a pivot or just to kind of assess your career in a way where you can move forward with more confidence and just feeling more in alignment with like what you feel your purpose is and just what you really want to do with your life, okay? Now, if you have a Virgo 5th house or a Virgo 7th house or Virgo Venus, this is going to be all about relationships for you, okay? So, and especially because again, we are having that Venus retrograde and it will be going back into Pisces. So if you do have Virgo 5th, Virgo 7th, that Venus retrograde is opposing those houses for you. So your love life, your romantic life is going to come into theme around the time of this lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 14th. So this could note an old issue resurfacing that you have to confront with your partner. This isn't necessarily a red flag. This could actually be a good thing. Imagine it's kind of like you're shining a light into the crevices, and maybe you've been afraid to confront those crevices, and now you're given the opportunity to do so that you and your partner can get closer together. That's a way that can manifest. If your relationship has been really on thin ice or just really tricky lately, this lunar eclipse in Virgo can kind of give you and your partner the clarity and kind of like the closure in a lot of ways to really make that decision like, okay, can we realistically and sustainably move forward, or have we done all we can do together? You know what I mean? So this can be really good for your relationship. I don't want you to feel like if you have Virgo 5th or 7th or Venus, you're inevitably going to break up with your partner. That's not what this means. It just allows for more clarity, whatever that might mean for you and your partner. If you're single, this Virgo lunar eclipse can actually be very healing. It can kind of help you tap more into your desires. It can also help you learn how to be more receptive. So you might be stepping into kind of almost like a more feminine space where you're more willing to ask for help. You're learning the value of how to let others give to you. You're just becoming more receptive. So you can become more open-minded to the prospect of meeting someone new, and not just meeting someone new, but allowing someone to pursue you without feeling vulnerable or like you have to prove your worth or prove you're worthy of love. You know what I mean? Now, if you have a Virgo 3rd house or 11th house, all right, your relationship with friends, your peers, your connection to your community can all come into play. And the same can be true too with people that have Virgo 9th house in some cases. This could note a relocation, or not a relocation, it could technically, but this could note some type of kind of reconfiguration of your relationship with your community and your friendships, okay? So for some, I guess that could note a relocation, but for others, this can actually manifest in kind of some funny ways here. So like redecorating your home. It could note like feeling the need to kind of do a purge of your friend group or your social group, right? It could also in some cases note, similar to like how people with Virgo Venus might be feeling more receptive, this could kind of help you develop a better understanding of maybe how much energy you're putting into your relationships versus how much you're getting from the other people. So basically trying to find more reciprocation in your relationships, okay? Setting firm boundaries, kind of thinking of all the ways that maybe you are not completely satisfied with your social life or your connection to your community, and then taking steps from there to kind of shift some things around essentially. Now, for people that have a Virgo ruled 4th, 8th, or 12th, this is really going to be felt on an intimate, personal level. So for the Virgo 4th house people, this could bring your family into the picture. This could note some type of family looming dilemma, or just kind of like, I don't even want to use the word conflict because it doesn't necessarily point to a conflict, but there might be something looming in the family that you have to come to terms with, or the people in your family have to come to terms with. There might even be kind of a logistical issue in the family. And this could also note too, maybe some type of family annoyance, nuisance, where you have to like deal with a lot of paperwork, or it's almost like there's just some type of task you have to tend to and get done within your family dynamic, within your family unit. So this might even be that you have a family member who's kind of going through it, and you have to be more available to them. So it can kind of manifest in that way, where you have a family member going through a lot, and you have to tend to them, you have to help them, you have to be available to them. You have to be kind of more emotionally available. And this can also allow for a lot of emotional reflection, introspection as well, especially pertaining to some type of memory or experience, or even just like kind of a feeling that you get when being with your family, or certain memories. You get what I'm saying. Now, Virgo 8th house, I want you to be really mindful of your health. I should have brought that up earlier. I also want you to really be mindful of like what you are intaking, what you're consuming. Be mindful, of course, of like during this time, maybe don't go out and party. Maybe don't go out. Maybe have a quiet night in if you have a Virgo 8th house. Maybe have a quiet, calm night in on March 14th. Watch a movie, eat something that can kind of feel replenishing in a way. I would be mindful of going out and going to bars and clubs, whatever. No, I love those places. It's any other night, sure, go party. But maybe on March 14th, maybe you just stay in and have a relaxing night in. The 8th house is just a really weird house. There's this kind of destructive energy to it. So it might be good to just make smart, wise decisions that day and just be comfortable and cozy and stay in as opposed to going out. And having Virgo 8th house too, this connotes some type of, similar to the 4th house, there might be a family dilemma that you have to tend to, but it might pertain also to your finances. So for some, this could note, like, especially because we'll be in that Venus retrograde, some type of financial return. It could be a financial inheritance, but there might be some type of asset that you have to like navigate within your family dynamic, if that makes sense. And then for the Virgo 12th housers, this is going to really affect you psychologically. So there's something in your psyche that you have to confront, that you have to deal with. And it might even just pertain to your relationship with yourself, your perspective on yourself, letting go of judgments, letting go of grief, letting go of shame, allowing yourself to just embrace you and all that you are. If you have Virgo 12th house, you also need to be mindful of your health. The 12th house is very sensitive. You might have to confront certain lifestyle habits that just aren't working for you anymore. And this can go for like everybody during this time. I would advise that we all kind of sit down and think about our habits and whether or not they are actually productive or helping us progress, or if they are kind of keeping us stagnant and, you know, not really in alignment with our highest interests. Okay, so I think that covered like all the houses. As always, it can differ depending on also like what this lunar eclipse is going to be an aspect as well. Like if you have a Sagittarius sun at 21 degrees, you know, the lunar eclipse is going to square your sun. So things can kind of differ a little bit depending on what other aspects and even personal transits you have going on. But that's kind of the gist of what you can expect from this Virgo lunar eclipse. It's very much about tending to your responsibilities, tending to old responsibilities that you've been avoiding and putting off, taking care of your health, routine maintenance of life that we all find super annoying. This is the time to do it, essentially. And also a time for introspection, reflection, confronting beliefs and just kind of feelings that are not very helpful for us long term. All right, now let's on to something a little more cheery. This Aries solar eclipse at 9 degrees, which is going to occur on March 29th. So this is really special because on March 30th, Neptune will be moving into Aries. Hallelujah. So it's kind of a special solar eclipse because there's so much Aries energy going on, which I feel is just really like special and, you know, it's like kismet in a way. But this Aries solar eclipse, I'm very excited for it. There's kind of a momentum here, especially following that Virgo lunar eclipse, which could be kind of a downer. The Aries solar eclipse can kind of feel like a breath of fresh air. There's this renewed sense of hope. So on kind of a general level of what we can all expect before I get into houses and stuff, there's kind of this feeling of hope and a fresh start. Aries represents new beginnings. Now, this is a great time to set new goals for yourself, especially goals that relate to your body, because again, Aries is a very physical sign, so it still has a lot to do with our body, and we still have to take into account that Virgo lunar eclipse, okay? Like, these are still very much connected. Hang on, I got something in my eye. Okay. They're still very much connected, so your body is still a theme here. However, whereas that Virgo lunar eclipse is like, all right, you got to make the calls, you got to schedule the appointments, you got to get the stuff done. This Aries solar eclipse, there's kind of this feeling of triumph here. So anything that you do tend to during that Virgo lunar eclipse, you know, like that week basically, Aries solar eclipse can bring good news. It can just bring this sense of rejuvenation, okay? And also, even if you receive maybe not the best news, you kind of have to look at it as, okay, knowledge is power. Just knowing is a good thing, right? So this Aries solar eclipse can just kind of give you a fresh start, a fresh perspective. It's new beginnings. So whether you find out something good about your health or you know, perhaps there's something a little not super favorable, you now have the tools and the knowledge to proceed and move forward so that you can act in your best interests. So this is a great time to set health goals, okay? You don't have to be like super extreme about it. You need to respect your body's limits. Of course, that's a really big part of health, is not pushing yourself. You want to healthily challenge yourself, but you don't want to do anything extreme. In the goal to getting healthy, you don't want to engage in unhealthy tactics. Like if maybe you're like, let's, for example, maybe you want to lose a little bit of weight. Nothing wrong with that. You don't need to take a bunch of pills to do so. You know what I'm saying? Recreationally. So that's kind of what I mean. You don't want to getting healthy doesn't require unhealthy steps. You know what I mean? That's very contradictory. Doesn't make any sense. So always advocate for, smart health decisions. Again, astrology is not a substitute for actual medical advice. You need to go to a doctor and a healthcare professional. These are just themes associated with this sign of Aries. So from there, we can make certain judgments and assessments about what you should maybe be doing during this time. Okay, so this Aries solar eclipse, very much about the body, a great time to set health goals, a really good time to set goals in general. Aries is a very fast-paced sign. It really gets the energy going. It can increase your motivation. It can increase your ambition. It can increase your stamina. So you might also just be feeling a lot more bold, brave, and strong during this time, especially for people that have like an Aries 10th house. So if you have an Aries midheaven, an Aries 10th house, an Aries 2nd house, and an Aries 6th house. So Aries 2nd, 6th, and 10th, this can really increase your stamina and your motivation. This can make you very, very eager to go, 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 go. So especially if you've been feeling like kind of stagnant lately, or maybe you've just had a lot to do, but you didn't really know where to start, or maybe certain roadblocks were kind of in the way. This can help clear away the clutter and the debris so that you can proceed. Okay, so now, again, you want to respect your limits. You don't want to be like, once the road is open, you don't need to go 100 miles an hour. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to go from 10 miles an hour to 100. You want to pace yourself, otherwise you're going to burn yourself out, and that's not what we want. But for my 2nd, 6th, or 10th house Aries babies, this solar eclipse can bring a lot of motivation and momentum to your life, and it can really help you start, getting, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of getting closer to your achievements and your goals. Now, if you have, and for that Aries 6th house, 8th house, and 12th house, okay, so if you have Aries 6th, Aries 8th, and Aries 12th, you need to take care of your body during this time. I don't want you doing anything crazy. Like, I don't want you going skydiving. I just don't really want you doing anything too crazy. Enjoy the momentum and the increase in energy, but again, pace yourself. And 8th and 12th houses, they're kind of weird. So even though the solar eclipse brings like positive energy, in my opinion, it's still Aries. It's still a naive sign. It's still a risk taker. You want to take a leap of faith. You don't want to take a leap out of a plane. You know what I mean? Like, don't engage in unnecessary risks, essentially, unless you're a stunt performer, and that's your job, and that's what you do to make money. Other than that, or you're a skydiver instructor, whatever. Other than that, you don't really need to be doing anything crazy. I forgot to mention this too. If you have an Aries 1st house or Aries rising, this is also going to be really good for you and allow for more momentum and more movement. However, this is also a really important time for your body, okay? So this is very true for the 6th and 1st house Aries babies. I know I'm going all over the place. I'm really sorry. You really need to tend to your body. So if you have Aries ascendant, Aries 1st house, no exception. Your body is really sensitive. It's very kind of vulnerable right now. So again, this is a great time to set health goals, but you want to do it in a sustainable way. And if you do have prominent Aries energy in your chart in general, rising, sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, midheaven, that's another really big one. All of those examples, your health is really important during this time. And this is also a really good time to kind of assess and moderate some of your behavior and some of your habits. Aries is a really extreme sign. These are the people that are like all or nothing. And on one hand, that is really cool, and I admire that. On the other hand, it can get you into trouble. So this is a time where you might have to even pull back a little bit. So in some ways, this Aries solar eclipse, for everybody as a whole, it can kind of push us forward. But if you already have a lot of intense Aries energy, on one hand, while it can help push you forward in some ways, it can also kind of teach you where you might have to pull back a little, okay? So pacing yourself, again, that's like a pretty important thing here. Now, if you have an Aries 5th house or an Aries 7th house, this can actually note new beginnings for your relationship. Whether you're in a relationship or you're not in a relationship, this can actually bring forth a lot of positivity, okay? This allows for a fresh start, essentially. So if you and your partner have been also had plans or have plans to like make a move together, this can give you that kickstart you need to actually like take that leap of faith. Like if you and your partner have been discussing buying a house, this can kind of align you with the perfect living situation. This is hard because on one hand, it's like, yes, this can be a really great time for your relationship in terms of like moving forward with something. Like if you, for example, want to have a baby, this time frame might provide you to kind of an opportunity to further your discussion on that and come to an agreement like, yes, this is something we want to do. There's a lot of yeses during this time. But it is tricky because we're still going to be in a Mercury retrograde. We're still going to be in a Venus retrograde. And it's really that Venus retrograde that makes me apprehensive about like telling you to sign contracts and make big purchases. I'm not saying you can't do those things. I would just make sure you are extremely looking over contracts, like just being extremely diligent. Look over contracts, look over them 5 times, be really sure that this is something you want to do, and make sure it's something you've been wanting to do. Like I wouldn't really do anything on a whim. Like if you've been wanting to buy a house and this is something you've been talking about for over a year, you're okay. You know what I mean? If you've been looking for a really long time and the perfect home arises and like, you know, the economy is what it is and the housing market is what it is, like go ahead and take it. Just be mindful. Just make sure you're doing a thorough check of everything. That way nothing is like getting overlooked essentially. But this can be good for your relationship in the sense that it can allow for more momentum, more movement. And if you're single, this could allow for a new relationship to come forward, especially following that Virgo lunar eclipse. For some of you where you might have, you know, had to confront certain psychological baggage that may have been preventing you from feeling good enough or feeling worthy of a relationship. This Aries solar eclipse for 5th and 7th house babies and Aries Venus babies can be really good for your relationship. Now, if you're in a sticky situation relationship, the benefit is that this can give you and your partner an opportunity to start fresh. That's really going to depend on what type of relationship you're in. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if you are in a relationship with a serial cheater that things are magically going to get better. We still need to have common sense. You know what I mean? Some relationships are just not good. It is what it is. So this can kind of, in some cases, give you that necessary clarity and closure to recognize your worth and move forward. Right? If you have an Aries 3rd house or an Aries 11th house, this could note new friendships, new relationships, like new platonic relationships. And it's same true for like Aries Mercury. You might also feel inspired to like take up a new hobby, take up a new interest. If you have an Aries 9th house, that can note a desire to take up a new study of some sort. For all my babies that are in school, this could note some type of academic triumph, some type of academic or educational new beginning. If you're not in school, this can just again note a desire to like take up a new study or topic or hobby, even if it's like self-taught. You know what I mean? Knowledge is power. I think that's like an interesting kind of theme for this Aries solar eclipse. Even though Aries is a sign, it doesn't necessarily have all that much to do with education. It's a very like primitive primal sign. It kind of just, you are what you are. I do think that the solar eclipse brings clarity and it brings truth to light in a lot of cases. And Aries is a powerful sign. It's a cardinal sign. So it's like knowledge and information that allows you to progress and move forward in life. Now, what signs have I, or what houses have I not discussed? I think that was everything. Yeah. I think that was all the signs or all the houses. If I missed one, just leave me a comment and I'll get to it. As always, it is going to depend as well, like what this Aries solar eclipse at 9 degrees is also an aspect to you in your chart, and also what other transits you have going on. But that's kind of like a general idea of what that eclipse is going to be like through all of the different Aries ruled homes. But as always, things can differ. It really just depends. And the gist of that Aries solar eclipse is just new beginnings. If I really had to sum it up, I know that was all really wordy and kind of all over the place, but new beginnings, if I really had to sum it up to one statement. Whereas the Virgo lunar eclipse is kind of like annoying stuff you have to do before you can start anew. Now, I think what I'm gonna do is make a separate video for September, which is we're gonna have 2 more eclipses. It's gonna be kind of like a full circle moment, basically. So when September comes around, I feel like I already talked so much about March. I don't wanna talk an insane amount, but when September does come around, it's kind of like a full circle moment. So any hard work that you have put into March, any new goals that you've set, any new ambitions or projects or journeys that you've kind of embarked upon, even if it's like planting a seed, especially during that Virgo lunar eclipse, like as you're decluttering and you're thinking about how you can really improve your life, and then maybe that Aries solar eclipse comes around and you take that first step, or a tangible action, or you set a health goal, whatever the case may be, it can really pay off come September. Okay, we're gonna have a Pisces lunar eclipse, which that is going to be probably a little difficult, and I would be very, very mindful of your intake during that time. I will say that. Be very mindful of your intake. I'm talking alcohol consumption, I'm talking other substances, no judgment, but just please be very mindful during that time. That Pisces lunar eclipse, it's so overly emotional. It's really messy. It's really chaotic. It has a lot to do with nostalgia and the past and emotions that we basically try to run from and avoid. Feelings of grief, feelings of shame, feelings of guilt. That's a really big one. So that Pisces lunar eclipse, I'm not gonna lie, it is very difficult. It kind of is like skeletons coming out of the closet. And it reminds me too of what they say, like in a full moon, the hospitals apparently see like an uptick in like ER visitors, because on a full moon, people just go crazy for whatever reason. And they don't always make the best decisions. So that Pisces lunar eclipse, it's really, really serious. I personally would just stay inside that night. I'm not saying you can't go run errands and live your life, but that night at least I would maybe just stay in and watch a movie and have a chill Pisces lunar eclipse night. But the energy is going to be sane and emotions are going to be really high for everybody. Okay. So please just be mindful that day. Now, we are going to have, and I'll write the day. I don't feel like looking at my notes right now. I'll write the day here. And then we are going to have on the screen. And then we are going to also have a Virgo solar eclipse at 29 degrees, the last degree. And I really, really love that. I think that Virgo solar eclipse is going to be a moment where a lot of our hard efforts and work just really pay off. So I'm really looking forward to that Virgo solar eclipse. I think it's going to be a full circle moment where everything that we've put into action for March really pays off. And that Virgo solar eclipse is going to bring a lot of new opportunities professionally. So, and this is going to be kind of for everybody. It's going to hit certain people harder, of course, for their career, but this is just going to be such a good time professionally for people. And, separate of career, it's just a good time for your sense of purpose. So even if you took up a hobby in March with that Aries solar eclipse, you take up a new hobby. September could perhaps give you like a new outlet for that hobby, or a way to kind of showcase that hobby, a way to share that hobby with others, some type of like personal progress you've made within that hobby. It's a great time to kind of look back and see how much you've grown. So September is going to be really interesting because it's going to have a lot of good energy when it comes to like your personal sense of purpose, your career, your professional objectives. But on an emotional level, it's going to be really tricky with that Pisces lunar eclipse. I'm going to make a longer video about that month of September as we get closer. I don't want to bombard you with information. I want you to just embrace the eclipses that we're going to have in March. Get to decluttering, get to working on, taking care of your body. Make appointments if you need to make appointments, if it's accessible and affordable to you. I live in America. Healthcare here is very expensive. So of course, do what you can, do what is within your limits. And yeah, just take care of yourself. And come that Aries solar eclipse, I think it's going to be a very fiery and interesting day. I do think that intense Aries energy is going to probably accumulate to a large worldly event. So on a personal level, there's momentum, but excuse me, on a global level, it wouldn't surprise me if there is like a very large event that takes place. I don't know what word to say other than like grand and large and big and exciting, but exciting, I don't mean that in the way of like happy exciting. It could be. I mean it in a way of like something that's really stimulating, something that is, it gets our senses going and it gets us thinking and it gets us talking and it gets us in action. Okay, that's like everything. That was a lot. Feel free to leave a comment letting me know what you think about these upcoming eclipses. Let me know if this resonated. You can also leave a comment if I didn't go over like a certain house. It's hard for me to keep up with what I'm saying. Gemini moon, bleh. And also feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. You can leave a comment with any suggestions of things you would like to see. And as always, I have my email in the description if you have questions, and I have my website in the description if you would like to book a reading. And again, I'm now offering live readings. Thank you.